Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ike's Political Minute. And yesterday we got some breaking news. Christie, former governor of New Jersey, one of the GOP's loudest anti Trump voices, has chosen to enter the race for president of the United States of America in the Republican presidential primary. And this is interesting because, as ABC News tells us, he is one of the loudest anti Trump voices in the Republican Party, and he could definitely shake things up in that area. I think that he would make up for a very interesting primary challenger, and he could land some very strong attacks on Trump and other candidates. However, I think that at the same time, his attacks on Trump would not fare well with him in the general election, since you need the Trump base to turn out. And if you look right here, Christie at one point was very popular. Like, if you look at the New Jersey governor election, he won over the black vote. He won over the Latino vote. The only places that even stayed remotely blue were the extremely liberal areas of Jersey City, which you can't see right here, in Newark. And Christie, I think, embodies the sense of compassionate conservatism that people like George W. Bush embodied. The kind of compassionate conservatism that can win the Sun Belt, that can win in all sorts of situations. However, as George W. Bush once remained very popular with his form of compassionate conservatism, and then tragically fell to historically low proportions, as we can see right here, the same fate befell Christie. Christie had a number of enormous scandals, including Bridgegate, including closing New Jersey beaches for public health reasons, only to later be caught on camera on the beach at his summer house. And I mean, Politico proves this. Christie left office on a 15% approval rating. So really, I mean, I think at one point Christie could have been this amazing populist candidate who could have also been super compassionate conservative and appeal to minorities, but I think all of that is out the window. And on top of that, if you have him pissing off the Trump base, I think that it would actually be a disaster for the Republicans if he was nominated. So yeah, I'm going to fill out the states that I think would be safe for Joe Biden. I think that Joe Biden would lock down the West Coast and Illinois and the Northeast. And, in this situation, I'm actually even going to say Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia are safe for Joe Biden, because that's how bad of a candidate I think Christie would be for the Republican Party. Same with New Hampshire, that would also be safe. And I think that because of Christie's scandal-tainted nature and him pissing off the Trump base, I think he even narrowly wins Maine's second congressional. I think Biden wins Maine's second congressional district narrowly, and obviously he wins Maine at large by a safe margin and Maine's first congressional district. And now we move over to the states that Christie wins by a safe margin. Yeah, I mean, basically, he wins Alaska, he wins the Rocky Mountain states, and some of the Great Plains states. Though I do think that Joe Biden would prevail handily in Nebraska's second congressional district. Christie would carry the red wall for the most part. He would carry the South. And honestly, I mean, that's about it. Like, I really think that this is going to be a bloodbath for Christie. I think that Christie wins Iowa narrowly by a lean margin, just because that's how bad of a candidate he is. He will only win it just because it's moved so far to the right with people like Kim Reynolds and Chuck Grassley. I mean, Chuck Grassley beat Mike Franken by 12 to 13 points, even when that was like his seventh time running for a Senate seat, and he was super vulnerable. So just the fact that Iowa still voted for him by that much shows how much of a red state it is. Ohio, though, I think that Tim Ryan showed that it can still be competitive in this day and age, especially when you have the right candidate. So Ohio, I would give that as a tilt margin to Joe Biden. And for that same reason, even though Florida and Texas have historically stayed in the Republicans' camp, I think that both would go to Joe Biden. I think that Texas, because Christie, while he would not appeal to the Trump base, he would also piss off the suburban base with his scandals, and I think that a lot of them would come out in droves to Joe Biden. And similarly, I think his unpopularity with Donald Trump with the kind of Ron DeSantis coalition would lead Joe Biden to win in Florida. So that's where we have it so far. Georgia and Arizona, for the same reasons that Chris Christie scandals would not appeal to suburban voters and not to the Trump base. I think that Biden wins both by likely margins. And I think that Nevada, just because it's trended so much to the right, would be lean for Biden. And I think that North Carolina would also be lean for Joe Biden. And for the Rust Belt, I think that because Chris Christie has imploded with the Trump base, I think that Michigan and Pennsylvania would both be carried by likely margins by Joe Biden. Minnesota might actually be safe for Joe Biden because it's actually moved to the left recently, even after the riots that recently happened in Wisconsin, just because that state has in general been a little more right leaning. I think it would be lean for Joe Biden, not likely like the other states. So there you have it. Chris Christie losing in a bloodbath to Joe Biden, 407 to 131. Thank you all for watching this video. Please comment down suggestions below. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit that bell for notifications, and I will see you all later.